Courtney here. For those that aren't that familiar with my account, my IG, um, I'm gonna be joined with one of my earth-loving buddies. Her name is Allison, and let's see if I can get her in here. This is my first time doing like a split screen. So let's see if that worked. Let's see, Allison joins us. Yay! It worked.
Yes. Isn't technology awesome?
Yes, when it happens.
Yes. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk with you tonight.
And thank you for tuning in. This is awesome. So, for those that aren't aware, my whole mission in life is to increase compassion with ourselves through what we put in and on our bodies, our relationships with the people around us, even further out, our communities, all the beings on this earth, and the earth itself. So that's how I came across Allison. So I follow one of our mutuals, which is Kevin Duffy. He's like an idol. And you and him had a really cool conversation on nutrition. And I thought, since you and I both have this passion for our earth, I wanted to share your thoughts and views from your background. So I saw your Earth Day post a week ago, and I think you and I feel the same way, that pretty much every day is Earth Day. But your Earth Day prayer was really thought out well, to encourage others to resist the man-made convenience that we have created. We've gotten so far and disconnected from what our earth provides us, especially with single-use plastics. And also, I love that you mentioned the daily use of Amazon. So can you share a little bit more about your environmental background and how long you've been working towards getting back to nature and resisting that man-made convenience?
Definitely. And I'll start by saying, I approach this topic with a lot of humility. Like, I am far from perfect, but happy to share a little bit about my own story. It's interesting. I don't know if you know this, I have a degree in ecology and a master's in environmental management. So like from an academic perspective, like, have been thinking about this stuff for a long time. But when I really think about like some of the formative experiences I had about like being willing to make a sacrifice and do something less convenient, one of the first things I remember is my grandmother back in southern Georgia when I was a little girl. When I would go visit her, part of like being at Nana's for a week was helping her sort and then take recycling out to this crazy far away place. Because think back, like we're talking early 90s, southern Georgia, the concept of curbside recycling was like very far off. And I think from that young age, I recognized like doing things for the environment isn't always going to be convenient. Like it definitely took a lot of time for my Nana and a long commute and digging through wet tuna cans for their cat and all that kind of stuff. But it definitely set a really powerful example for me at a young age. So yeah.
Awesome. And I kind of knew a little bit about your background, but yeah, so tell us again, what are your certifications in the
My certifications are few and far between, but my degrees are, I have an ecology degree, bachelor's in ecology. And it's interesting, even though I look back on the teachers who taught me about botany and who taught me about entomology, were actually the same teachers who, from an academic perspective, really encouraged me to grow more around my own environmental footprint. Like those were the teachers who bike commuted. Those were the teachers who had gardens. Those were the teachers who, not to like polarize the conversation, but had really interesting things to say about having kids. And yeah, they were just really influential. And one of those teachers is why I started baking my own bread. and that's like a whole other story for another time. But
Yeah.
and then my other degree, I went to Duke and got a master's of environmental management, which is
Wow.
like a professional master's. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So as far as the brand that both you and I have teamed up with and are very proud members to be in the Arbonne community, how has the brand of Arbonne and it being a B corporation, how has that influenced you? And was that one of the reasons that you did choose to join up with this brand?
Absolutely. I mean, I joined right before we became a B corporation, but I could just tell that this was an amazing company and it was a matter of time. I think that the news was out, we were working on our certification when I chose to start my business. But I mean, for me, it was just like an answered prayer of, it's funny because we were kind of like in this conversation talking about not being into ease and convenience, but actually the ease of a brand you could trust from not having, I think I was telling Kevin, like I literally used to sit on the floor at Whole Foods with like all this stuff in front of me, Googling, trying to figure out, well, wait, like this brand, it was safe like 2 years ago. Why is there talc in it now? Did I miss something? Is talc safe? Which no, it's not. That's just like this constant world we're having to navigate of super toxic chemicals, super just toxic stuff on the aisles in our grocery stores, and dealing with greenwashing, which makes it really hard for the consumer to know like what's the safe choice. And so for me, it was like the ease of having a safe choice I could use, my husband could use, I could recommend to friends and family. So yeah, it's just about having a brand you can trust that also is awesome. Like I live in the Bay Area and I have tried and used almost every vegan clean skincare makeup line that's out there, and to me Arbonne's second to none. Like a lot of that stuff's clean and great, but it, you know, doesn't work or it melts off your face in 10 minutes. So yeah, I love the products and what the company stands for overall, for sure.
For those that aren't familiar with the term greenwashing, can you give us a quick explanation of that?
Yeah, I'll try not to use too much hyperbole, but greenwashing is where an organization, a company, or a product tries to convince the consumer that it's green, like eco, but it's not actually. So a great example would be, you know, you buy something and it's got like green font and a little picture of a leaf and like it says somewhere on it natural, or it could be like organic but totally unhealthy because it's like full of sugar, or that's like, it's so complex. Literally one of my environmental studies classes for a week we spent on certifications and how challenging and misleading they are to the consumer. And so in my opinion, honestly, being a B corporation, that's something I look for in almost everything I buy, because I'm like, it just gives my brain a rest. Like I don't have to worry, like, well, like it's natural, but like, is it this or that? And then the people, because how people are impacted along the supply chain is so important. I know that's really important to you.
Yes.
And that's part of having a B Corp certification, is that you show on paper, third-party certified, extremely rigorous process, that you care not just about profit, but specifically people and planet. And so, yeah, if people are looking for a way to know what they can trust, I think hands down that little B in a circle is one of the most solid things you can look for these days as a consumer.
Yes. And I love when I get a text, like a picture from someone that I know. They're like, look, B Corp. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting because a lot of people don't know what it is, but then as soon as they do, you start seeing it. Like there's actually not many. I'm sure you know this. I don't know how many there are as of now, but I know like about a year ago, there were only 3,000 in the entire world. But it's kind of like once you learn, you know, like about a certain car, you're seeing it everywhere on the road. But yeah, like Athleta, Patagonia, Tom's shoes, Tom's toothpaste, Mikios, which is my like plant butter. So yeah, there's so many great ones. I'm so proud that Arbonne is among them for sure.
Yeah. Well, last little tidbit, I want to thank you for your awesome unboxings of your CSAs. So I live in Illinois, the Chicago Burbs, and I don't know that there are any CSAs around. So can you give us a little bit of an idea of like what CSA is? Is it different than a local farm? When you started to transition from like typical grocery shopping or farmers markets over to a CSA?
Totally. So CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and typically it is going to be produce. So that could be fruits, veggies. We also get our eggs through our CSA. You can get meat, flowers. Each one's different. I actually got my popcorn last week from my CSA because you can do add-ons. But it's typically from a local farm, but the difference is it is reliable income for those farmers. And so if you think about from a farmer's perspective, how they plan their profits and expenses is pretty far out. Like they are planting things that are going to be turning them a profit, 3 to maybe 12 months from that date. And so it's such a powerful thing you can do as a consumer to participate in a CSA, because it's not like going to be a whimsical decision like, oh, is it good weather? Do I want to go to the farmer's market? Or, well, it's a lot quicker drive to just go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. It's making that monetary commitment. A lot of times they don't even ask for a year-long participation, but it's a way for them to have stable, predictable income and give them a sense of like, well, how many tomatoes should I plant this year? And actually, the reason I got involved in my first CSA was, and I want to highlight this because I think a lot of people, the reality is organic produce is typically more expensive. And that's because of the incredible solid way that it's grown. And I will also say that organic, like I was alluding to, doesn't always mean safe in terms of produce, especially if something's coming from another country. I have a friend who works for the EPA who will not eat any organic produce if it comes from another country because of his knowledge of what is sprayed on things, which if you Google, it says that they're not doing pesticide or insecticide treatments, but my friend's pretty high up at the EPA and literally will not touch spinach from Mexico. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to do what he's doing because I think he knows like what's going on. And so I was in grad school, and because organic produce is more expensive, I was trying to figure out a way to nourish my body, but also like recognizing my financial constraints. And so I did a work trade. We ended up working there for a couple years. It was like the best day of my month though. Me and my husband would go out, we would get dirty, like filthy. My body would ache at the end of it. Like farming is that's like what you're paying for when you're paying organic food, is like a human tilling the soil and like doing the work. But it was an amazing way for us to be able to access organic food that was actually trustworthy. Like whenever I am at the farmer's market, I don't even ask if farmers are certified as organic or not, because it's actually like a really expensive endeavor and can take a really long time.
I read that.
So the way I always ask people is I'm like, would you eat your soil? And if they're like, yes, then I'm like, okay. And I know that's like crazy weird thing. And my husband always gets embarrassed when I say that. But my point is like, are you putting toxic shit on the plants and soil or not? So yeah, I love CSAs. And of course, if it's not available in your area, you could always look for local farms, nearby, and try to shop at the farmer's market. And honestly, if there's a co-op in your area, I feel like I personally have less and less trust for Whole Foods, just as they're like, one day Whole Foods is going to come after me for all this slander. But yeah, if there's a co-op nearby, for anybody listening, that's a great, usually really reliable source for food as well. And honestly, our Arbonne stores, I have customers who refer to my store as their grocery store, because it's just so clean.
Right. And trustworthy.
Yes.
So valuable. Thank you. Thank you so much for time and expanding our awareness of compassion. I feel like we all need to look more into the expansion of it, because it really has so much to do with the choices we're making every day, multiple times a day. Not only because I know we talk about organic foods being safer for us, but it's also safer for our earth. And
Right.
I don't think a lot of people make that correlation. It's not just us. Like, we are the earth. We are connected. It's not only good for us, it's good for the earth. So we're not only investing in our health, we're investing in the planet health. And for obviously our families and descendants thereafter us. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, because I learned so much from you, and I will continue. So thank you.
Oh, well, you're giving me more credit than I deserve. I'm always inspired and learn from you as well. So I think, we're all in this together, trying to do the best we can. And it's a daily effort for sure. So thanks for inviting me on, and I hope you have a great night.
You too, Allie. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.